And joining us now is Colorado Democratic Congressman Jason Crow. He's a former Army Ranger. He sits on the House Intelligence and Armed Services Committees. Congressman, thank you for joining us. Let's start with those two crew members rescued after that helicopter crash last night off the coast of Oman. So this is hitting closer and closer to home for Americans. Have you been briefed on what happened?
We haven't been briefed yet, Anna. I've seen the public reports along with everybody else, so I'm very glad the crew members have been rescued. It's once again a testament to the capability and just how good our military is, we're rescuing our downed pilots. So I'm very glad for the pilots and for their families in this instance, and we'll do what we should be doing on the Armed Services Committee is looking into the incident and seeing what happened and if there was a problem at any point in the operation.
President Trump was asked about the thousands of U.S. troops that remain in the region in that interview with NBC's Kristen Welker. Let's listen to that part of the conversation.
We don't need as many troops. I think it's on the to err on the side of caution. We have a lot of people there. They're very safe. I would say this, it costs us very little to keep them there. I don't consider them in danger. We have the best defense anyone's ever seen. We have the best offense anyone's ever seen. So I don't consider it danger. I would say it would be foolhardy to do that because maybe we may use them. It's unlikely, but I think we'll keep them there until such time as we have a completion.
Congressman, how does an incident like that crash last night put the human cost of this unofficial war into perspective?
Yeah, well, listen, first of all, it's a war, right? People are saying it's not a war, it's an unofficial war, it's a military conflict. It reminds me of my time in Iraq and Afghanistan as we were getting blown up by roadside bombs and attacked by insurgents, and everyone back home was like, wow, it's not a war. And Washington, D.C. said, it's not a war. Well, it feels like a war to us. It felt like a war to me, and I can tell you it feels like a war to the over 50,000 men and women who are serving over there that have to deal with, potential air raids, potential drone attacks, who are flying combat missions on a pretty regular basis. So, it's just tone deaf for Donald Trump to say something like they're perfectly safe. Of course they're not perfectly safe, right? We have to make sure they're as safe as possible, but there are over 50,000 service members over there. There are active combat operations going on. They're at high risk, and we need to be serious about that.
And I only said unofficial war because it has not gone through Congress. The president never got authorization for war from your body. And Democrats have been trying to pass a war powers resolution, which has stalled for more than 3 months now. Is that still your best option to rein this in, or is it time to consider a new strategy?
Well, we have two options, and actually last week we did pass, with the help of a very small handful of Republicans, we did pass a resolution in the House terminating the war, which we are going to send over to the Senate. I'm not holding my breath that the Republican-controlled Senate's going to do anything about this, and of course Donald Trump is not going to pass this bill. But it was an important first step. We've taken many votes, and I'm going to continue to force votes because, if nothing else, Americans who are overwhelmingly against this war, which is, again, a continuation of endless conflict in the Middle East, which is unbelievably unpopular throughout America when Americans are losing their health care, losing their farms, homes are going under, people can't pay their mortgage. The suffering is very real for Americans. They just don't want to spend tens of billions of dollars in the Middle East anymore. But we're going to continue to force votes so that people know where their members stand. Are they for this or are they against it? Take a thumbs up or thumbs down on this vote. The second thing we can do is try to remove appropriations, because Donald Trump said it's costing very little. That is a lie. It's costing tens of billions of dollars, in fact, to have over 50,000 service members and all the assets over there. So we can look at removing appropriations too, and we're just going to keep at it. We're battling the Republican-controlled House and Senate that seems to want to rubber stamp anything Donald Trump does. That's the wrong answer here, and we're going to keep forcing votes as long as we can.
Let's pivot to Bill Pulte. Two sources familiar with the matter tell MS Now Speaker Mike Johnson is expected to meet with President Trump today to discuss Pulte's appointment as acting director of national intelligence. This is as Democrats are refusing to extend the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act while Pulte is in this role. And yesterday, Republican Representative Don Bacon suggested Trump pull his plans to put Pulte in this role to get Democrats on board with FISA. So Congressman, are Republicans, do you you think, feeling the pressure here?
Well, they should, because Donald Trump just appointed somebody in one of the most important intelligence positions in our nation, actually maybe the most important. And why it's important is because after 9/11, America, we did a postmortem. We're like, how did this happen? How did we have different puzzle pieces, different sources of intelligence that could have shown us that the 9/11 attacks were happening? Because we were aware of certain things, but we didn't put all the pieces together. So we said, we're gonna create an entity, the Director of National Intelligence, that's gonna put all the puzzle pieces together, coordinate intelligence, make sure that it's not being siloed and segregated, to see the whole picture. That's what the DNI does. And by law, that person has to have experience. It says shall have experience in intelligence, because you don't want some random person in charge of that entire infrastructure. So here comes Donald Trump, who puts some random person in front of that in charge of that infrastructure with no experience to do that most important task that we learned has to be done after 9/11. So it's very dangerous for Americans. Secondly, this guy is a political attack dog. He has proven that his number one role is to go after Donald Trump's perceived political enemies. And as we head into an election cycle where Trump has repeatedly said he's going to try to undermine the integrity of the elections, I certainly don't want somebody like that in charge of an intelligence agency.
I do want to squeeze in a couple more questions, so real quickly, if possible, want to just follow briefly and ask you, how do you weigh, getting rid of Pulte from this role, or your concerns there, with the concerns of the potential security risks of not renewing FISA, especially during a war?
Well, it's not weighing, because they're the same risk, actually. Putting somebody who's incompetent with no experience and who is a political attack dog for Donald Trump and has made his career focusing on political attacks actually creates more risk. So that's a problem, right? It's not an either or. Bill Pulte being in this position does not mitigate risk. It doesn't reduce it. It doesn't make it less. It actually makes it higher. So no, I am not. I'm not in favor of Bill Pulte for any amount of time being in this role. That's number one. Number two, this is a really important authorization. I have voted in favor of FISA my entire career, but it is a powerful tool, and we have to make sure that you follow the law, that there's judicial review. And what we have seen in the last year and a half is an administration, a president who routinely disregards the law, who routinely abuses process. I mean, literally tried to put me in prison back in February because I stated what the law was, and ignores court rulings. So I don't have any comfort that the normal process is going to work with this administration, which is why there needs to be a very short runway. I am not going to vote for a multi-year reauthorization that's based on someone obeying the law when we have a president who doesn't obey the law. I'm thinking a year or less reauthorization, because our leverage, our ability to enforce the law, depends on short runways, that if they abuse it, then we can go back, we can reform it, or we can take it away.